Frederick Douglass is no stranger to hardships. He has overcome many adversities with grace and valor. Douglass was born into slavery in 1818 in Maryland. As a young child, he was separated from his family and sent to live and work on White House Plantation in Maryland. In a 2009 History.com article, they state that the master's benevolent wife, Sophia, taught him the alphabet. He then went on to teach not only himself but other slaves how to read and write using the Bible. Word got around of Douglass's efforts, and he was sent to Edward Covey, which a PBS article states he was known for his physical violence towards slaves, and Covey whipped the now 16-year-old Douglass daily. Finally, after several failed attempts, Douglass fled slavery and sought refuge in New York in the safe home of David Ruggles. There, Douglass met his wife, Anne Murray, a freed slave from Baltimore, and they had 5 children. Douglass then went on to become a great leader in the abolitionist movement. He attended many abolitionist meetings, and in 1843, during the American Anti-Slavery Society's 100 Convention Project, which was a 6-month tour across the United States. He faced ridicule, hate, and even physical abuse, but he was persistent in the idea of a better world with equal rights for everyone. Douglass used his hardships and experiences to educate and enlighten the nation.
Frederick Douglass's contributions to the abolition movement came in the form of several autobiographies. Despite his slave upbringings, Frederick Douglass was actually quite an elegant writer and quickly grew attention to himself. The main book that Douglass is remembered for is Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave. This book was a bestseller in America and was even translated to several European languages. He produced 2 other versions of this autobiography, known as My Bondage, My Freedom, and Life and Times of Frederick Douglass. Douglass's other accomplishments came in the form of speeches, papers, and social movements. He was able to give speeches in the anti-slavery society conventions, and he produced his own newspaper called the North Star. The North Star's motto was, "Right is of no sex, truth is of no color, God is the Father of us all, and we are all brethren." The North Star's main focus was a component of abolition and the feminist movement. In 1872, he was the first African American to run for vice president with Victoria Woodhull. Here is my audience.
Frederick Douglass helped feed the flame of the anti-slavery movement in the United States and even in Britain. Frederick Douglass had such a huge impact on this issue that really still affects us today. So Douglass's book was so popular that he even went on tour in Britain, and some say that his popularity among the Brits really helped them decide not to come in and intervene during the Civil War on the side of the Confederacy or at all. And he was so popular over there that his supporters raised enough money to buy him out of slavery so he was able to return to America a free man. And also, since he was such a good speaker and so talented, he became really popular in like the pop culture of that time, and he was really able to make people aware of the issues that he wanted to be heard. Some of those issues were the education of African Americans and letting African Americans into the army to fight, and then also after that, fair pay for them. So he actually had met with Lincoln on a couple of these issues a few times, and so after that had been accomplished, those soldiers really became indispensable for the North in helping win the war. And so he fought for abolition and civil rights after that as well. And so his overcoming story, he was being a former slave, like you heard earlier, was just so inspirational to others in the civil rights movement in the future in the 60s. And so just his whole backstory of teaching himself how to read and write and then escaping slavery just inspired so many others to overcome their difficult circumstances and fight for their own rights. So, through countless speaking engagements and books that have lasted through time and still inspire today, it's really impossible to put a quote or a quota on the amount of people that he has inspired and affected through time.